the talk shows Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today is Robin Snow. Robin, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So, yeah, my name is Robin. I'm the owner, director, and author at Glow Yoga Kids here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I run a kids yoga company. We're mobile, so we go around into schools and daycare centers, do events, birthday parties, that sort of thing, where we share yoga and mindfulness with kids. I also have written two children's books during the pandemic, and I own a kitty who will definitely be across the screen at some point today. Thank you, Namsa.
So, yeah, thank you so much, Robin. So, our topic today is how to help your child if they have mentally illness. And mental illness is the topic where basically people don't want to go there, they don't want to talk about it. It's a stigma, and when people have mental health problems, they'll prefer to keep it to themselves because they are afraid that they're gonna be judged, and we live basically in a judgmental society. But what do you do when you basically your adult child is going through mentally health in illness? So we're going to be to cover that, and Robin works a lot with the children. I'm sure you have experienced children. You have come across with children who have mentally health problems. So we are going to talk about it. When a child has mental health problems, sometimes as a parent, you have to listen to that child, listen to what their feelings. We intend not to want to actually listen to our children. We want to tell them what to do. We want to go in with an agenda, but unfortunately, if you want to solve a problem, you have to go in without an agenda, and with an agenda, we basically with the open mind, just to listen to what that person is going through, and how you can help them moving forward, because you don't know what they are feeling. It's like when I'm having like a chat with my daughter, she'll come in and wind me up with something, and I talk to her, and without an agenda, and tell her how I feel about it, and she'll be like, what would you feel if I do this? I'm like, every decision or every choice you do, it is yours at the end of the day, but not mine. I'm there as a guidance. Basically our children. We raise them to go. They're not ours forever. So when a child has a mental health problem, so what is your opinion on this one, Robin? Have you ever come across any children with mental health problems in your walk of life with your work?
Yeah, I think neurodivergence is becoming more and more common. And when I say more and more common, I don't mean that there wasn't mental illness before, but it's being reported more. People are coming more forward. I hear a lot of people from even a couple of generations past being like, well, this wasn't really a thing when I was growing up. And it's not that it wasn't a thing. There's probably lots of people suffering in silence with mental illness back in those generations. It just wasn't talked about. It wasn't as widely accepted as it is today. And we still have a super long way to go as well. There is still, like you said, there is still some stigma around it. But it's getting better, which is making a lot more people feel comfortable to come out and share this stuff, whether with their friends or partners. And kind of, I feel like the last one to them to come out to is their parents, because often there comes that kind of, I guess, a little bit of stress or anxiety about your parents maybe not accepting you, kind of with the challenges or with the different things that you are dealing with, right? It could be a number of things. But yeah, like if you've gone to a psychologist as an adult and you've determined, or been diagnosed with a mental illness, then yeah, telling people can be a real struggle. So I feel like you're right, Namsa, that there is that little like, oh, I don't know, but if you can be a guiding light and be able to, understand your children and appreciate the decisions that they've made, um, then that's really all it's about, right? I think number one is definitely listening to your kids, like Namsa said. Definitely listening to your kids, whether they're young or old, it doesn't matter. Listening to them and their struggles so that you can support them and empower them in whatever it is that they're dealing with. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add right now, Namsa, before I continue.
Okay, I think you are right, Helen. As sorry, Robin. I think you are right because I'm thinking I was making a phone call to my father-in-law consultant, Helen. So now I'm thinking about her.
Yeah.
So I was you are right, Robin, because at the end of the day, when you give birth to your child, you are there to support them. You are there not to control them. You are there. Your job is to listen to them, even when they are going through pain. As a mother, for myself, when my daughter is going through pain, there is no way that I can say, I know what you are feeling, because I'll be lying to my daughter and say to my children if I say I know what they are feeling, because I don't. The truth is, I don't. Their feelings are unique and they are individual. So all I can say is, as a mother, is trying to find out if they need any help, if they have mental health problems, and support them. And like you were saying, listening to that person and making sure that they know that I'm there if they need me. As a parent, I'm there to listen and not to basically push them or to uh, for me, basically, as a mother, when I speak to my daughter, I always let her know that she has a choice. Everything that she does in life, she's always have a choice, and I will never ever take that choice away from her. And she knows that as a parent, I have to be kind. It's like there's been so many things. It's like like I always make sure it's like the children, they grow up and they go to school, they have all these activities they do. So I do that by having principles to my children, that I tell them that, listen, we're now going to school. I'm not there, but you are there. You know the story, you know exactly what is happening at school, but I'm not there. So whatever happens at school, make sure if it's something that upsets you, is something that you don't like, or somebody does something, you go to your teachers first. You don't keep things, you do not keep a secret. You go to your teachers, explain to them, and then you come to me, you explain, and then together we'll take action. So they know that there are procedures, and children have to be free with parents. Their parents, sometimes that they are very strict. When you're very strict, there's a difference between control and being strict. For me, basically, I have principles in the house. I don't control my children. Like today, my daughter, she's gone to London with her friend. And I said to her, listen, I trust you. And me trusting you, it means you tell me every hour, mommy, I'm okay. This is where I am. So when she has mental health problems, a child needs to know that I can cry out to my family. And also the other family members as well, like aunties or grandparents. That's what they are for. And also any parent that they're watching, make sure that you involve children to the local community. They need to be tied up with the local communities, like you have, like where you are, Robin. You do a yoga, and you are part of the community. It's a place where you do activities. So when I'm talking about a community, it means the children have to have other people they hang out with than parents. So a child has to, it's like pastors, my children go to church. It's like my pastor. If anyone in church says to my daughter, come to church, or there's activities in church, my daughter will say, I'm busy. But if my pastor sent a message and say, hype, we've got things that are going on, like pizza or anything, would you like to come? She'll say, sure, yeah, I'm coming. So to her, is the family that she trusts, is the other family, my church, that she trusts. And then you have friends as well that she trusts, that she can communicate with. So you have to have all these different ties, communities where your child, if they can't communicate with the parents, they don't take it personal, because sometimes it's tough. Don't take it personally as a parents, because it's hard to actually open up with the other things sometimes. Or sometimes a child, because of what they are feeling, the feelings are mixed matched, and they'll be like, I don't know if I tell my mom or my dad, they're gonna go mad with what I'm feeling. So they tell somebody else. I'll be grateful if somebody else can come to me and say, your daughter wants to speak to you about that. But then you have to ask yourself, why would your daughter feel scared as well? So you have to be open, somebody open with your children. So that's what I try to do with my children, but sometimes it doesn't work. So we can't judge parents. It doesn't work. If your parents feel that their child cannot talk to them, you have to be grateful when you find out that your child has the mental health problems. Or if they talk to their teacher, it's fine. I have the dance teachers that they know that I never interfere, but they know that there is a room that if my daughter has problems, she can confide in them. I've made that very clear that if she can't talk to me, if she does speak to you, please be able to listen to her. So they know that that option is there. So as parents, we have to know that we're not perfect, and our children, there's going to be a time where our children might go through challenging times, and they might not be able to talk to us. Like, I don't know if you have ever dealt with the parents who come from like children who come from a broken family. Children who come to it from a broken family, they will choose to talk to you, people like you, Robin, instead of they'll be like, if I talk to my mom about my dad, she'll go mad. If I talk to my dad about this, she'll go mad. So they'll find that if I talk to Robin, Robin will listen to me. So it's very complicated.
Yeah, I think, I mean, definitely, I think you're on the right track with the listening and finding people, um, in your life, whether you're a young child or you're an adult, finding those people in your life that you can confide in, that are going to listen to you in a non-judgmental and supportive way. I think that that's really super important for sure. And I think from the flip side, as a parent, regardless if your kid is young or old, obviously as young as you can start empowering them, the better. But it's never too late. So even if you have adult children, this is still something that you can discuss and talk about. That way they see that there's this open dialogue, there's this open conversation, right? And so things that you can discuss are like, medications, right? And how that process works, right? Talking about, maybe you as an adult are also on medication. So talking about, the things that work and the things that don't, and the side effects and all of those things, and maybe even how to refill a prescription. You can talk about counseling, going to a psychologist. I think it's healthy for everybody to see a psychologist, regardless of how if you think that you're doing fine or whatever. I think a psychologist is beneficial for everyone. So talking about, that it's totally fine and totally normal to talk to a psychologist or use mental health resources is really, really important to talk about. Talking about things like positive lifestyle habits, discussing the habits that you have and how you get through hard times as well. Because sometimes, I mean, mental illness can come in many, many different forms. Obviously, the first kind of main ones that come to mind are like depression and anxiety, just because they're pretty common these days. They run rampant. They're also a side effect of many, many other neurodivergent diagnoses as well. And so, having those different ways that you deal with high stress or low moments, because everybody deals with them, right? It might not be full-fledged depression, but at least you can kind of give a little bit of advice. You can give that scope to your kiddo. Talking about, proper diet and exercise as a way to combat some of those really negative symptoms, the importance of sleep, right? Even talking about things like substance abuse and suicide, because a lot of us look at that and we're like, oh no, like let's not talk about that because it's scary, or because it's a not so nice word or something like that. But I feel like we need to talk about that stuff more. We need to be more open, especially with our adult children, but definitely with our younger kids, as long as it's being spoken about in a very delicate and digestible way. You don't want to be talking about specifically suicide with someone that's really little. But working yourself up to that, making it digestible. One of the things we talk about in our yoga class is like, yoga is really good for you, but we don't always know it's good for you. And so, for example, carrots are really good for you, but kids can't digest them because they don't have teeth, or they're, don't have that quite the chompers that we have. And so maybe we blend them up and we put them in a smoothie, and that makes it more digestible for our kids. And so in the same breath of like talking about hard things like suicide and substance abuse, when you're talking to your kids, you kind of need to blend it up and make it digestible so that it's not this really scary thing that they're now fearing. The earlier that you start and you talk about these really intense topics, the better, because then you're able to, sorry, my timer is going off. Then you're able to actually, kind of prepare them for the potentials that come in their life. And maybe it's not something that they ever deal with, but maybe they have a friend that does, or maybe they know somebody, maybe somebody in their life, their sibling, or even a parent or an aunt or an uncle or whoever is dealing with that. And it's important to know, or at least have a healthy, open discussion around it so they can ask questions. They can figure out where they stand. And when they're dealing with it, or they're, it's actually coming up for them, they don't feel like if you say the S word, that it's going to be, this like, oh, stop, you're not allowed to talk about that, right? They're going to know that they can come to you and talk about it. And again, I think it's super important for everybody to have those open discussions. But like you said, Nomsa, if the kids are not feeling comfortable talking to you about it, knowing that they have someone to talk to, and maybe that is a teacher, maybe that is somebody in their life, but keeping just in mind that not everybody is going to be qualified to have that discussion. So I think, again, going back to the psychology thing, having, your kids have this regular, healthy relationship with another adult who's trained in that, who can actually have those conversations in a more, like I said, digestible way. I think that's super important. On top of all of that, I think just being there for your kids, like you said, Numsa, making sure you're open, making sure you're there for them, making sure you're non-judgmental as well. And one of the things that I love, and I do this with my partner all the time, but could easily be translated into a parent-child relationship, would be, would you like my advice, or do you want to just vent? So you ask the question first, and then your kid can respond. Maybe they just want to tell you and they don't want your advice. And that's great. Or maybe they do want your advice, but at least if you have that conversation ahead of time, they're not going to feel judged if you just suddenly start giving advice that's unsolicited, right? I think it's really important to make sure or have that distinction, so that your kid isn't feeling uncomfortable when you start just being like, well, this is what you should do. Because we want to empower them too. We want them to be able to make their own decisions, and we want to be able to empower them to feel comfortable in that as well and trust their own instincts and trust their own bodies. And so asking that question ahead of time will just eliminate any like miscommunication, to make sure that your child knows. And yeah, again, I think just encouraging them to get help on their own, whether that be with a doctor or a psychologist or with the mental health resources that you provide. I think that that's super important. I'll make one last quick note before I pass it over to you, Namsa. Um, my sister and I both were, diagnosed later on in life with ADHD, and that is something that I found to be very tricky to relay to our parents, because they just don't understand. And it's something that I think is super, super important, that if you're a parent and your child comes to you and says, I'm neurodivergent, I have, such and such, whatever, that the parent does some research from there, because it shows, like, if you do some research on what it is that they're dealing with, it shows that number one, that you care. And number two, you're trying to find more ways to communicate with them. So if your child, whatever your child has, whatever they're kind of coping with, whether it be depression, anxiety, they have some sort of neurodivergent diagnosis, that you're showing that you're trying to understand them better, right? Because we can carry on and just act however we're acting, but then our child maybe is going to feel lost and lonely and not accepted. And so making sure that when you're communicating to your kiddos, that you're saying, hey, I looked at this article, it said this, is this your experience? Because I'd love to be able to communicate with you better. I want to understand where you're coming from. And it's funny because that was kind of how I ended up getting diagnosed. Was my sister told me she had ADHD, and I started doing some research on ADHD and was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, now I understand you better, but also I feel like maybe I have ADHD as well. So I think that that can be really, really helpful, not only in your own diagnosis, but also in um, supporting your kids and understanding them, and making them feel like it's okay to come to me no matter what, because I'm going to do my best to understand you, and I'm going to do my best to provide supports for you as well.
It is nice, like when you say you and your sister were diagnosed same time, because it means that you get to understand each other, and at the same time, you know what she's going through and she knows what you're going through. Like when you're communicating, you can relate to her. So it is very, very important. And also, us as parents, it's important not to judge our children. When somebody is going through something, it's very, very important to go into a place where there are no judgmental, there is no agenda. Just go with the free spirit, a spirit where just listen. Like if you have a friend comes to you and they're looking for an advice, what would you do? You wouldn't want to say, oh, I know what you're going through, or I can help you with that. You want to just chill out and listen and find out. Like for me, basically, I'm a person, when somebody tells me their problem, I want to know when that person is telling me, I want to know from them what part do they want me to play. So if my daughter is telling me, like I've got two girls, and they're telling me that this is what they are going through, one of them is going through something. So my role as a mother is to find out what part does my daughter want to play at this moment, find out from her if she wants me to basically listen, because sometimes you go to a different stages. When somebody comes to you with a problem, there's a stage where they just want you to listen without giving an opinion, and they want you to know, to let them know, they want to feel that they can come back and communicate with you again, and they want to know that they are being understood. that you understand their problem, whatever they are explaining to you. They want to know that, okay, I am being understood what I'm going through. And they want to know, you can encourage, like Robin, what you were saying, that encourage the treatment. You can put some options there and encourage the treatment. And also, as a parent as well, get help. Parent will need some help as well, because it's not an easy thing. Being a parent is not an easy thing. So when things go wrong, sometimes you might struggle to actually go through whatever your child is going through. So you might need to get some help. So it's nice for you to basically, as a parent, and seek therapy as well, like what Robin was saying, that have a psychologist and seek professional help as well, because when you have professional help, you are able to actually to deal with things not based on your want, based on what your child is going through, and just support them, because all they need at that moment is support. They don't want to be judged. They don't want when they're doing something wrong, for you to let them know that this is what they are doing. So they want to be judged. And my daughter, she wanted to do something, and yesterday she comes in and she goes, Mommy, I need to go and have my hairpiece. She's already have a hairpiece. She wants the second one. So I said to her, why do you feel you need the second one? And she goes, my friend has got one. So I said, okay, this decision, you're not making it because that's what you want. You are making it based on your friend because they've got one. So I said to her, the advice that I can give you is let your friend have glory first. And if you still admire them, you still feel that I want to have them, I said, then you can think about it. Said sometimes we do things because our friends or some people are doing it, but sometimes it's good to know to let your friend enjoy her thing first, her ear piercing first, the two ones, you've got one. So I said to her, so I was explaining to her how we create image. I said to her, the celebrities, we see celebrities, they they're appearing on the magazine, but we don't know what has been behind the preparation. They've basically got the team in, and that person gets the team in, explains the design of the dress they want to design and why they want to design that dress. The work it gets put in. And then I said to her, and then the dresses gets created, and then after it's created, um, they get to try on, and then after trying on they get to approve it, but we just see the finished bit side of the story. So I said to her, and then somebody, when somebody looks at that story, they go and copy it, but that's not your image. So I said it's very, very important to create your own story. I said to her, create your own story based on you, not on your friends. It's very, very important when your child has mental health problems to help them write their own story. Even if there's someone that that has a mental health problems, never ever compare your child with that person, because their story is going to be different. And their story, the journey that they take, how, even if they agree to the treatment will be different. The time scale of the treatment agreeing with them is going to be different. So it's very, very important to actually make sure that your child writes their own story, not the story that we had in our head, or the story is like GCSEs. When children are writing exams, like Robin, you were talking about depression, anxiety. Uh, there's so much. I was reading my daughter's report. Honestly, I got tired on the computer, and I was like, oh my God, is there an end to this subject? And I was like, I'm looking at my daughter. She's 14, she's 15, not 16. So I'm like, I didn't realize this is the work, this is how much work they have to do. And it's so much, Robin. And I was like, this is too much for children. It's like they are writing to be professors or something. Because I'm reading a report, the things that they do and the things that they're going to do for GCSEs. I'm like, this is too much. Honestly, they are not at university, but that's what they have to face in order for them to get to where the education level is expected. And that comes with stress. And that comes with depression if the stress is not managed properly and stuff. But for me, basically, I monitor my children. There's a time to study and there's a time to have some me time. So I always say, have time for you to study and have time to for me time. Just switch off from whatever you're doing. So, but sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But we just have to support them with an understanding of their problems and without judging, just encourage them to basically to see what I've seen parents who have children with mental health problems. It's like they have a disease. When you speak to them, they're like, this one has issues. I'm like, are you serious? Why would you say your child has issues in front of them? They're like, he has issues and stuff. But that's not how it's, you can't label your child if they have mental health problems. So you just have to treat them because it's normal. It can go away as well. Mental health problems, if they manage properly, it can go away. Because my father-in-law had mental health problems during lockdown, but it did go away just by um, having an understanding that we do get you. We don't know what you're feeling, but we are there for you. So if a child is basically knows that I can actually go to my parents and discuss my problems, or I can go to Robin as my teacher, my yoga teacher, and talk to Robin, and Robin will be able to listen to me. If a child knows that they have the right community, they'll get there. They'll get help. It's important. That's why it's important to actually um, make sure that your children have the right tribe. Like myself, both my children have study. They call them study buddies. They are tutors, but they call them study buddies. So they go, that the reason why they have that is because if there is something that they can't communicate with me or from school or anything, like study wise, or maybe they might be struggling with something, to make sure that that person is there, because I'm not a teacher and I don't like arguing with my own kids. My father was a teacher, and I wouldn't imagine, I wanted my father to be my father at home, and I wanted my teacher to be my teacher. If I needed a help, get me somebody else, a tutor to teach me. But I want my dad to be my dad. So that's the relationship that I grew up having, knowing that I want to separate school and my parents. My dad was a you go and teach in a different school, and also I didn't want to be in the same school with him. I wanted our relationship to be completely separate, and sometimes some children might feel that way, that they prefer to speak to a professional than speaking to a parent. So it is very, very important. My daughter, yesterday, day before yesterday actually, she goes, Mommy, can I go to London? So we had a discussion, and then she goes, I told her how I feel, then she can go. But I said, your dad needs to approve it first. If your dad, I said to her, if your dad says no, I trust his judgment, and he trusted my judgment. So if he says yes, then you go. So he goes, okay, Mommy, listen, I'm a psychologist, and I need you to talk to him like this. And then I was like, no, you are not a psychologist. When did you get to be a psychologist? You're 15. And she goes, oh, wow, what you do is what I do anyway. I listen to you. So I was like, okay. So the children, sometimes they learn from our language. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying this just to let parents know that how we behave how we speak to them and how we think about them. So if I have Robin here as an adult, I need to speak to my daughter as an adult and understand their feelings, how they feel. That's the same way they feel. They are not just children, they have feelings as well attached to them. So when you're communicating and you're listening to them, just listen to them the same way you would like somebody to listen to you. And you'll be able to get through to them if you treat them like normal people. That's what I do with my children. My daughter knows that when she crosses the line, there are consequences. And she knows that she will be listened whenever she has problems. She will be listened. And she knows that if there is an argument that she needs to send across, I'm willing to listen to her or argument, what she's the message. And if I'm wrong, I'm willing to correct it. So that's what us parents have to do. Like, you know your children, and you have to communicate with them based on their personality and who they want to become at that moment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think for sure, like one of the things that I often say is like just because they're kids and just because they're younger doesn't mean that they aren't smarter than us. That's another thing. Just this, it doesn't mean that they're not smarter than us, that they're not, more capable than us. Kids these days have a lot of resources and a lot of support. Like we're building a better world. I feel like we're building a lot more opportunity for kids to reach out and you
Grace is
know
talking to you,
that
Robin.
yeah, hi Grace. Yeah, I feel like just because they're younger, I think it's important for people to note that just because they're younger doesn't mean that they aren't smart and that they don't know themselves. So, like you said, Namsa, I think talking to them, with the same respect that you would give an adult is super, super important. And definitely as they grow, because I know we're talking about adult children, definitely as they grow, that same respect needs to be carried through into their adulthood as well, especially if they're coming to you with a mental illness of some kind. I think it's also really important. I wanted to just mention that as a parent, just because your child has a mental illness or just because they're dealing with something doesn't mean that you need to just completely um, let your own needs go and tend to them. I think it's really important to set boundaries as well. In any relationship, you need to set boundaries, but especially with a parent to child relationship, it can be really easy on both sides to help them to a fault and forget that you also have needs and that maybe it's not okay that your child speak to you in a certain way, or it's not okay that you speak to your child in a certain way. So as an example of this, you might say, I love you and I'm here to support you, but I won't allow you to yell at me or threaten me or something like that, because depending on what's going on, and that goes both ways. And I think it's really important that you make sure that those boundaries are set, that they know that you're going to be there, that you are here to support them, but you won't accept certain behavior. If they're going to be rude to you or they're going to throw stuff at you or something like that. I don't know, as an example. Obviously, it doesn't need to be that intense, but like if they're putting you down or something like that, and it goes both ways, right? If you have a mental illness, especially, you need to make sure you're setting those boundaries with everybody in your life, your friends, your parents, etc. Because if they're doing something that is making you feel unsafe or is working you up or triggering you, you need to make sure it's clear to those people that this is not something I can manage. right? And maybe I need to take some space, or you need to take some space, or maybe you need to leave or something like that. Maybe we need to pick this up another time and just talk about it. I think it's really important that when you're setting boundaries, that you're making sure that, like, let's say you're an adult and you're setting a boundary with your adult child, that they're not at risk for something like suicide or harming someone else. Because if they are at risk, then obviously that's more of an emergency situation, and maybe boundaries can be bent a little bit in those circumstances to make sure that they're safe. But especially if it's, kind of your everyday issues, everyday things that are going on, that you're making sure that you're taking care of yourself as well on both sides. Yeah, I think of my friend, actually. She has a lot of intense mental health things that she's been dealing with over the past few years. And her partner sometimes has to say, I need a break. I need to go, away for the weekend, or I need to do this or that, because it's starting to affect my mental health. Right. And they kind of work with that and have those boundaries so that she feels safe and comfortable, and that he also feels safe and comfortable. So he's like, I'm here for you. I love you. But sometimes I also need a break. I also need to go see my psychologist. I need to do this or that, because otherwise it's going to start affecting my mental health as well. Right. And I think that that's really important, really, really important as well. I'll also just mention that, again, like I had kind of mentioned before, don't try and handle things on your own. Make sure that you get help. There's again, like you had said, Nomsa, there used to be and still is stigma around mental illness. And a lot of people don't feel like they can ask for help, or they can, go to the people in their life. And this can create more issues. It's like you spiral out of control, right? It's like you need that outside perspective, that outside support, in order to be grounded and understand that what you're going through is normal and it's okay. And it's okay, again, like I had said a few weeks back, it's okay not to be okay also. So making sure that you're getting the help that you need, whether that be a parent, a friend, a teacher, or a psychologist. Again, I push the psychology thing because I feel like sometimes we can use the people in our life as a soundboard for our issues, and that can be really harmful to them as well. So making sure that you're speaking to someone who is totally removed, can be completely objective, and can give you that give you that perspective, give you that advice and the resources that you need without having, a bias, or maybe your own feelings involved, because they can remove their feelings from that. And they're obviously, like, let's say your mental illness or the way that you're feeling is because of somebody in your life, and then you go and you tell them, and now they feel bad, and their advice is clouded because they just feel sad about it and they don't want to create that for you. Obviously, that there's a difference between having an open discussion and being like, hey, this is how I've been feeling, and like, can we have a conversation about it, versus like just telling them all the stuff and kind of shocking them or making them feel bad, because then they're not going to be able to give you that clear advice either. I see Grace said some stuff, great advice, needed it, going through a tough time right now. Yeah, Grace, I think absolutely. I think we all have those moments in our life, regardless of if you have a diagnosis or not. We all have those really low moments, and that's totally okay. And just kind of being comfortable in your own feelings and your own experience, and asking for help when you need it, is super, super important. I know that for me and a lot of people during the pandemic, mental health issues were on the rise, because everybody was struggling. No one was able to reach out, to those people, or get hugs even from the people in their life that they needed them from. And so I think there was a lot of of mental health complaints that were going on during that time. And I think now that we're kind of coming out the other side of it, that again, we just need to really be clear about how we're feeling and be open with the people around us and our psychologist or whoever else that we have in our pocket, for sure. And I always like to recommend yoga and mindfulness, because those are great tools to just help calm the body, and also make you feel more grounded. It goes back into what I talked about before, setting healthy habits for yourself, through diet, through exercise, through meditation and that sort of thing. It can really help to support you in those moments. And even I found when I've seen psychologists in the past and more recently, even, that they're often recommending kind of a toolbox. I like to call it a toolbox of tips that are mindfulness related, because it does work and it does help a lot. Do you have anything else to add there, Nomsa?
I actually agree with you when you say basically there are resources out there, and also create boundaries as well. And also, like what Grace is saying, when you have a problem, have the courage to talk about your problems, and also be aware that there are some people that you can't talk to them, they'll make things worse. And you yourself, you know those people, what kind of people they are. And that's why it's very important to speak to a professional. And like at Ngozi Talk Shows here, Gracie, we have different coaches from all walks of life. So if you ever feel that you want to discuss something with these coaches for 30 minutes, you can talk to our coaches. You can send a message private, and I'll connect you with one of our coaches. Then you can talk about it and see whether you can take it, where you can take it, or take it from there, and things like that. And make sure that you don't stay silent. Like myself, I had a problem 2015, 16, and I didn't know what was going on. But then I confided in somebody. I basically, the problem that I had, I didn't know the gift that I had was a gift. So, and I was like, I'm actually praying. I fasted for 40 days, and then after 40 days, and I started actually, basically, I could hear the communications and things like that. And I was like, what is going on? And then I started looking back as a child. I was like, I've been hearing whatever spirit and things like, and I didn't know that it was spirit. So when you hear things that you confide in someone, so I confided in somebody. And the next thing I saw the police coming to my house because I confronted in that person goes and call the police that I'm mad. I'm thinking that I can hear God or whatever spirits. No such thing as that. I call the police. I see the police coming to my house. I see the social services coming to my house. And after I see the social services, they refer me to a psychiatric doctor. After a psychiatric doctor, and the psychiatric doctor, he was very, very smart. And he said, you know what? If I get involved in this, I'm gonna get in trouble. So it's a culture, it's a religion. So if I judge her, I'm gonna get in trouble. So he said, what I'll do is, Nomsa, you do your thing. I'll come and check on you on this day because I have to be seen as doing something. And he was like, I have to care for you as well to make sure that I'm not missing anything and anything. And it was like, I'm putting my signature and I'm saying, no, she's not mentally ill. She hasn't got mental health problems. But if that doctor had decided that I had mental health problems, I would not be here broadcasting it in Ngozi Talk Shows. It would have been a mistake. They would have sectioned me for the things that I had no clue what was going on. And then in the end, the social services kept coming. In the end, I had to ring the solicitor because I'm a psychologist. So when you see things that are wrong, they are wrong. So I had to sit them down. They came, social services, and there was another team for I don't know, this team is a crisis team and they came, so I had to sit them down and I had to say, I've confided in this person that I have a problem and you guys are treating me as somebody who has mentally health problems, who has this. And then I was like, what is wrong with someone anywhere who's got mentally health problems? If I had a mentally health problems, do I really have to be treated like this? So then I had to download, I had to log into my website with my uni. And then I said to them, listen, before you all turned up, I was getting 90%, I was getting 100% with my assignment. Now I'm getting 70%, I'm getting 80%, and I don't like it. So then I said to them, you are invading my privacy. I have rang the solicitor, you are invading my privacy. Confiding with somebody is not wrong. I needed somebody to talk to, but you are treating me like a criminal. If that person had judged me, I'm sorry for that. So I had to kick them out myself. I had to kick the social services out. They basically went to my daughter's school. That was a big embarrassment, but I had to kick them out. And then he opened my eyes why people don't confide in people. So that's why I'm saying grace is like when you have a problem, or anyone that is watching, when you have a problem, choose the people that you can talk to them about the problem. Because when I spoke to that person, I thought they made sense. I thought they were normal, but they judged me straight away, and that ended up uh, bringing a big thing into my life. But it opened my eyes that there are some parents who have lost their children by being misunderstood. So for me, it's because I was studying psychology at the time, and I knew it was wrong. So I had to play my being a solicitor myself, and I had to kick them out. And I said to them, listen, the police that were called, they came, and they've told you that we don't see anything wrong with this family. They look happy at you. My children are always happy. In the police, local police, we know all of them. They're like, we see her on the street, we see her with the kids. And they went to my children's school, and the school were like, the children are happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't think that there is anything wrong. So they kept coming, they kept coming. So the reason I'm sharing this is for somebody that is watching, that you have to know that when you are ill, or if you are not ill, if you are being misunderstood, you don't have to give up your life. I would have actually given up my life that moment. And what made things worse, because I'm black and I'm a foreign, the woman comes in and she goes, we have to check your asylum sec. And I was like, who told you I'm an asylum sec? I'm a British citizen. I was born in Africa, but that does not mean that I'm here legally. So I was like, that it didn't make me angry, but it made me realize that actually we live in a very, very judgmental society. And there is a reason why people like to keep the problems to themselves. Only crazy people like me who speak to people because they want things to be sorted out. So if you're crazy like me, please, and you're watching, keep wanting, having that courage to sort your life out, and listen to your children. They are not ours, but they are ours. We gave birth to them, but our job is to guide them through life, is to be there for them. Our job is to understand them, to say, I hear you. I don't know what you're feeling, but I hear you. Because if somebody would have said, Nomsa, I know what you're going through, I'll be like, you're a liar. You don't know what I'm going through. Because that is the truth. So I don't know what you're going through, Grace, but all I can say to you, things get better. You just have to have good you have to have a good tribe around you. Find people that can listen to you. Things always get better. They don't stay the same. if you're going through tough times, or it could be marriage, it could be finances, it could be, I've been homeless for 7 months, but not because I didn't have money. I had the money, but we were coming out of lockdown, and we got let down exchange, house exchange last minute. So that means I had to let my house, somebody occupy our house, and we had to move out. And we couldn't find a house. There was nothing on the market. We had the house that we liked. We thought we had it, but last minute, people changing their mind. They have a choice to do that, to change their mind. We became homeless. We were staying with my father-in-law, but it was tough. But at the same time, when you know that it's just temporal, you know it's gonna get sorted out, and that what keeps you going. That is, things will sort it out. Remember, they get sorted out if you want them to, but if you don't, you will stay in that mountain. So climb it. So Grace, my advice, the words of encouragement, or anyone that is watching, climb the mountain. Even no matter how hard, how tough it is, climb it. Somebody out there is holding your hands. I'm a great believer with with God. I believe in God. Even some people don't believe, but I always believe that whatever you're going through, just cry out with the cry of climbing the mountain. Any words of encouragement, Helen, before we leave?
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. I think speaking about it is the most important. Obviously, your experience, that was really unfortunate that they treated you that way. I think that's probably a lot of the reason why people are struggling to reach out and to speak up, because, maybe they're met with that type of thing, right? And unfortunately, I don't know how it is where you are, but in Canada, unfortunately, um, even where they're like, I think about the room that they're put in at the hospital, if they're considered like a risk, is the most not healing space ever. It's like completely blank. It's all like bright lights. It's white. There's nothing else in the room. It makes you feel like a prisoner. And I think that, a lot of our systems, unfortunately, are not set up to really support people with mental health issues. Um, and so I think that that's really unfortunate. But I think the more people that continue to speak up, the better things will become, right? And the more, like my sister, even as a perfect example, obviously she has ADHD and works really hard to create systems for herself, but because she has ADHD and wants to support other people, she's creating a system for people in her specific field, in her workplace, a presentation that can help the employers understand their staff better and how to support them better. And so I feel like, again, the more people that speak up and are comfortable talking about it, the more people that are actually going to put those systems in place so that we all can be supported, right? I do think it's getting a little bit better, but there are still people that are being met with those issues, especially, and I hate to say it, but especially in the healthcare system. Because I feel like we often get sidelined as, just crazy, right? And I think finding your tribe, finding the people that you can trust and that are going to support you in that, again, above all else, making sure you have people in your corner and you have someone that you trust that you can speak to, so that you're not kind of put into that separate box of you're insane, what are you talking about? I think that that's really, really important. That would be my final piece of advice, would really just be get your cheerleaders, the people in your life that are going to be there for you no matter what. Seek support, and like Nomsa said, don't stop speaking up, because again, the more people that do it, the better off we're going to be as a society. I'm just going to read what Grace wrote. So very grateful. God bless you both. I do need someone that can understand me. Absolutely. Yeah. So finding those people, Grace, is going to be number one for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone that is watching. We are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, UK time, and 1 p.m. UK time. And please, if you need to speak to, like Gracie, if you need to speak to someone, you can get in touch with Robin, or you can get in touch with me or any other coaches at Ngozi Talk Shows, or go to our page, Ngozi Talk Shows page, or LinkedIn, my page on LinkedIn, and just get in touch with me and I'll connect you with whatever. We've got all these coaches from all walks of life, grieving coaches, mentally healthy coaches. And I personally myself, I'm a psychologist, and I'm happy to listen whatever you're going through. So just the options are there without judging you or anything. And I basically Ngozi Talk Shows is to help people find their own voice and lead from within. And when I was telling my story, basically you have to speak up, you have to learn to speak up. And because if you don't, like myself, I'm here at Ngozi Talk Shows, my story would have been completely different. And in the end, what happened was because basically it was basically Robin. I don't know, you do meditation, and there are some people that do meditation and they do all these things. Basically, when I was praying, basically, I was hacked by Satanism, but I didn't know. I read the Bible and the Bible came to life, basically. And because I didn't have the knowledge at the time, so that's when I needed help. But then I was lucky because I found people who dedicated their lives, who were interested to my story, and they dedicated their lives to help me because I was able to reach out and ask for help. And if now somebody goes through that situation, I'm able to help them. It's not an easy situation because when you go through as a child, you grow up. Your my ancestors, basically, I don't know their journey, what they did things, but basically I wanted to worship God, and the other God was like, no, you belong to me. So that was my case. So I had to fight those battles, but I managed to fight those battles because I'm basically crazy. I love to, if I'm going through something, I don't like to stay in that mountain. I like to go crazy and get out. And that is the good thing about it. You can't do normal. You have to want to get out of the mountain. So whatever the mountain you're going through, Grace, get out of it. And only you can make that choice, can make that decision. And it's temporal. No, that is temporal, it's not permanent. God bless and live with grace.